Okay, folks, we are live. We're back in the saddle here, so to speak, with the ripple effect, and excited to have my lovely co-host Erica Gimbel and Lori-Ann here joining us. How are you today, Erica?
Hi, nice to see you. Nice to be back.
Oh, good. Did you come up with any realizations over the summer about the ripple effect or anything else? Or
Oh, always. As always, it's always changing the insights for what we've done with our previous podcasts and what we're doing going forward. So it's good. That's good conversation for us to have.
yeah, I think it's nice to have the time off. I can't say that I'm refreshed. It was a busy summer, but I'm glad to be back, I guess. So we'll settle in. Um, I don't know if you wanted to do we are going to get to some of your a check in on some of the health things after we have Lori-Ann, but is there anything else you wanted to check in about before we get to Lori-Ann?
No, I can't wait to have this conversation with Dr. Lori-Ann. I'm looking forward to introducing her and just everything we cover. It's going to be fun.
Oh, great.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. With that, we are going to get right to Lori-Ann, who's and really an expert in health. And I'm going to let her say all her expertise, but she really knows a lot about a lot of different things. And she's one of the most knowledgeable people we know on health issues. And she has a Gertonson Institute. She's really been healing folks in the East Bay area for a very long time in her Berkeley office. And we're thrilled to have her. So with that, I'm going to just see if Lori-Ann, if you might be able to just tell us how you are today and tell us what you do and how you help the community out here in the East Bay area.
Sure. Thank you for having me, by the way. I appreciate the invite and this opportunity to speak to everyone. I'm always interested in talking about health and wellness in any way, anywhere. So I appreciate this opportunity to do that. Yes, so I call myself a holistic chiropractor. I'm trained as a chiropractor, but I have very many different certifications in all areas of health and wellness. I'm certified as a chiropractic sports practitioner, as well as in biophysics and all areas of wellness science, nutrition, stress management, mental hygiene, exercise, anything that comes under the purview of wellness. I have studied and have certifications in. I'm also an injury prevention consultant and have worked with many corporations in training specifically back safety and that type of wellness in the workplace. So I've worked with Whole Foods for several years, training their employees, United Airlines, Kaiser, many things like that. So I've kind of across the board have worked individually with people, worked in the corporate arena, and I've done a lot of different things.
Beautiful. Well, we love all health things on this show, especially, and there's nothing more timely. I know before I got on, you guys were talking about some health stuff. So we just want to serve as a resource on this show to get the word out there about important things and really connect people with people who have the knowledge that you do and have the capacity to help them. And I did want to just do a quick check-in about some of the trends that you might have seen in health and wellness. You know, during COVID, we've been in this for a while and things have changed, but is there anything out there kind of breaking that we should know about in health and wellness, or what have you seen in trends in people's health during this COVID environment?
Well, I would say that in the beginning, when we all first were learning about COVID and the pandemic coming upon us, a lot of people were really interested in their immune system. They were out there seeking for help and support, trying to figure out how to not get sick, obviously, but how they could strengthen themselves, because the news was very dire, right? People were dying in large large amounts there. Anyway, so there was a lot of interest, I think, in some self-health at the time. And I can tell you a little bit in a moment of my interest in self-health, because I wrote a book on that. But in the beginning, there was that interest, and people were like, okay, how do I strengthen my immune system? All right, find out, what all those types of things are, what kind of supplements can I take? People were trying to get out more active on their, there, Erica has my book. Thank you so much for showing that. Yes, creative self-health, the consciousness-based approach. And I'm happy to talk about what that means. But so in terms of COVID, that was the beginning. And, actually, you couldn't even buy a bicycle back then because people were buying bicycles and dogs to get them out walking and, be active more and taking a little more interest in their health because they were, one, afraid. There was a lot of fear out there. But I think that since the vaccine, which is a good thing, but it led people back to figuring that, medicine was going to save them. And a lot of interest has backed off of self-care, amazingly enough, because I think people are feeling like, okay, well, I'm good now, and not thinking so much of the future. I don't know if you noticed that, Erica, but I have noticed that there's not quite as much interest as there was. There's still some people who are interested in that, but I think that part of the premise that I put forth in my book is that people have had this perspective that, we're like a machine. We're a physical body and we're victims of our circumstances, like a pandemic, a virus. It's going to come around and kill us all. And that's a scary place to be in. But not so many people understand that we actually were born to be healthy, that we have an immune system and a body that actually can help to heal us, or at least help us to adapt to those things that come our way. And so in the book, I talk about turning your health over to medicine, so to speak, and not taking the steps to ensure your own self-health, whether that be, your nutrition, the kind of supplementation you might take, the exercise, your mental health, your stress management. And also understanding that that health comes from within. So I'm sure, Erica, that in your business, that the more people give their body the resources it needs, the more resilient they are. And a lot of people are not aware or are not jumping on that bandwagon, so to speak. They sort of have to be convinced, because the general idea is that, if we're not sick, well, then we're well. But if some pathogen comes our way, then we better be really scared, because then we can get really sick. So that, I think, that perspective, that mentality makes a difference in how we approach life and how we approach our health. So that's one of the reasons that I love chiropractic so much, and why I so much got into being a chiropractor in the very beginning, because chiropractic has a philosophy. And that philosophy is that there is a universal intelligence that informs all that is the organizing way of the universe. And it's present in each and every one of us, that information is part of our health, our every part of our existence. And so if we're not well, then there's some interference in the expression of that intelligence. And in chiropractic, we say that intelligence is expressed in the body, or communicated in the body, through the brain and the nervous system. So if we're not well, then there's some interference in that communication between brain and body. And so as a chiropractor, what we do is to identify where what we call those interferences or subluxations, to identify those subluxations, remove them, so that the body's innate healing intelligence can heal the body. Now, the founders of chiropractic also said there are sources, that there are the things that cause subluxations. And so in today's parlance, they say it's any physical stresses. So if you are working on a computer all day, you're not moving around, right? So that sort of physical things, accidents, sports, any, injuries, these can be physical causes of the interference. But there's mental and emotional reasons for it all too. So basically what we think of as stress, right? In our now stress about the pandemic, right? Stress about getting sick, but stress about our finances, about our family relationships, grief, all of those things interfere with our health. And I know that even in today's medical world, they talk about the effects that stress has on health. That's pretty well known right now. And more is happening in terms of mindfulness and meditation. So that part is improving. That part is increasing. Now there's more and more people working to find that state of calm, relaxation, and balance, maybe I should say. And so you'll see more and more of that talked about in the literature, as well as, people and services being offered in many ways. But the other one is the biochemical world that we live in. So anything you eat, drink, and breathe can also affect your state of health, right? So, right, Erica, I mean, what we eat matters, right? And so all of that, and toxicity within that arena, right? All the toxins. And now we have, the toxicity of the air we're breathing right now. I don't know how everybody here is feeling, but we're now in my family, we're checking what's the air quality outside before we're going to go outside to do any exercise or anything, because that toxicity matters. So getting back to, as a chiropractor, what we do is also look at what's going on with someone in all those three areas, and can we start to address them and teach people how to manage all of that in terms of their lifestyle. So that's some of what I do, is to not only assess what brings them into my office, but also look at, what's their lifestyle look like in all those three areas? How can we impact that? So that's something that I think is extremely important, to get the message across to people, because that matters. I mean, medicine's not going to save you from all those things. And that's how people have thought in the past, pre-pandemic, right? We're dealing with all those chronic illnesses in the news all the time, and they've not gone away. Heart disease, diabetes, cancer, right? Right. And we know that interventions in any of those areas will help move us on the continuum towards health. So here I'm going to throw a new word at you. It's called salutogenesis. Have either of you heard of that word?
No, it sounds a little
Can't
bit
say
like
that I have.
salud in the word health, in Spanish.
Yes. Yeah, so salutogenesis is about the generation or promotion of health and vitality. And where pathogenesis really is about the study of illness and disease.
Yeah.
So most people
7
think,
years of
well,
Latin.
yeah, so if you just avoid pathogenesis, then you're healthy. Well, that's not really the case. It's really about salutogenesis, about the promotion of health and wellness, and vitality. So that's real chiropractic care falls in that area, as well as, many other disciplines that are doing that and promoting health. And I often think that people think, well, if I don't have any symptoms, I'm well. We hear that all the time, right? Don't you hear that? Oh, well, they were fine today. They were fine yesterday, but and something terrible happened to them today. Well, yeah, I think rationally that doesn't make sense, right? You couldn't have been fine yesterday. You didn't have symptoms, but maybe you were standing the edge of falling off and, falling into that place of illness and disease. Whereas salutogenesis and promoting health is moving away from that edge, right? It's moving far away from that edge. And when you are far away, right, then you have a little bit of leeway. You can sort of move back and forth a little bit. Whereas if you're on the edge, if you participate in some activities that are not the healthiest, or if you splurge a little, then, you know, you won't fall over the edge. So, but anyway, salutogenesis, I think, is a much better word than pathogenesis.
Yeah, it's so about prevention, and it's so about like the holistic approach to being well without your drugs. And drugs have a purpose and a place, but it's like, what if there's
Right.
more holistic ways to, you're totally speaking my language.
I knew that.
7 years of Latin, I'm like, salutogenesis, the beginning of health, like
Yes.
going into health. So I love that. And, you know,
Yes.
I just appreciate what you're saying. And so in our next question, we ask, you know, so,
Erica, can I just make a quick comment?
oh yeah, please, please.
Sure.
You know,
Jump in.
I love this analogy of, you know, connecting the stars and connecting the dots. I think both of you guys do that in a large part with health. And I think, you know, for example, I always thought chiropractic was just about your back. And, you know, I had this very limited understanding, as most Americans do. And I think Lori-Ann is really this big picture thinker on health issues that, you know, there's a lot of chiropractors out there, but I've never heard them kind of say the things that the awareness that she can bring. So she's pretty unique in that respect. And same with you, Erica, in terms of this big picture of health, how, and this is something we're not taught, is it should almost be taught in school, and that this awareness of our health, how it's, you know, this holistic view. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to go over to Kaiser when I get sick. We actually have to live a healthy lifestyle to develop health within us in order to stay healthy. And that's something that I don't really think gets enough kind of airtime out there. So I love all the ways that Erica expresses that and her healthy vegetables, but Lori-Ann also talks about the science. So I just wanted to add that as my little crib sheet, so to speak.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That was the sole purpose of writing the book, was just to change perspective. It isn't a total like how to, but it has some of that in there, but it is about, let's start changing the conversation, which I appreciate that you guys are doing this, because that's what needs to happen. We need to change the conversation. So, and I think Erica's heard me say this before, that I'll ask people, do you want to be healthy or just not sick? Right? So not sick is not the same as healthy and, you know, expressing vitality. It's just not. It's somewhere, it's standing on the edge, waiting to see if you're still not sick, right? Waiting for the next wave to come along and knock you off. So I think one of the most important things we can do, and I appreciate you guys doing this, is let's start changing this conversation. Let's know that health comes from within, that we have this power and this intelligence inside of us to use what's necessary to help us to adapt and be resilient to those things that come towards us. Now, it's not to say, you know, throughout medicine, that's necessary when it's needed, but it's not generating health, right? It's just when you are in an emergency, you need help. And they definitely can provide that help. And so I don't want to say we dismiss all of that, because that's not it. But our overall lifestyle and the way we approach and think about health, maybe if we could just understand it comes from within, it comes from us, not to us. And what do we need to do to express that? That's the conversations we need to have. And, you know, in the chiropractic world, it's important for us to understand the importance of the nervous system in that world. So yes, there's diet, there's exercise, there's all those lifestyle things, but you can eat all the healthy food you want, but if the nerves that are going to your digestive system are not communicating properly with your brain, then it's not going to be so effective. It's not going to matter much. You're not going to be able to get the results that you want that way. So we need to make sure that that is operating. So in your house, for instance, if there's a short in your wall somewhere, it doesn't really matter, what the best appliances you have plugged in are. If they're not getting the juice, it doesn't matter how great they are, or how, good they might function if they actually got the juice. So that's the chiropractic. It's that. Now I know there's other juice for you, Erica, right? But it's the power, right? Chiropractic turns the power on. Let's connect to the source. And that source is universal intelligence. And the nervous system is the plug-in. It's what allows the power to get distributed into the physical body. And now you can use all those resources and use all those fruits and vegetables and get the best out of them and into your cells and all of that. So that's where we come from a more holistic place in what chiropractic was truly designed for, what the founders actually talked about when they were developing chiropractic. And I'll just say to your point, David, about everybody does think about chiropractic as back and neck pain. And the reason that happened was that we apply our treatment, so to speak, to the spine and to the back and the neck, because that's where the nervous system is. The brain's encased in your skull and then comes down through your spinal cord, which is encased in your spine. So if we want to remove interference, we, going to be working on the spine. So, and in some cases, sometimes cranial work, but that's where it is. And so, have you ever seen TV commercials for drugs? The people are in slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
And they're
And
all
all the side
happy
effects.
and take this drug and this will be you, gliding through life happily ever after, right? But then in the small print, side effects include, constipation, diarrhea, death, something crazy like that, right? So for chiropractic, it's the commercial is, yes, you will experience that wonderful vitality and life, and not in slow motion, by the way, with lots of energy and exuberance. And the side effects are, oh, by the way, your back and neck pain might go away too. So unfortunately, that it was mostly the insurance companies that dictated that to happen, because a lot of people got a lot of benefit from their back and neck pain going away with chiropractic care. So, but anyways, that's the true story of chiropractic. But chiropractic was also ahead of its time in that they talked a lot about what we might consider quantum physics right now. And in that whole area of universal intelligence, which in my book, we call consciousness, right? That's why it's a consciousness-based approach. And in the quantum field, we're all connected. And that's part of chiropractic too, as we are all connected. And the more people who are connected to innate, to universal intelligence, the more we function together to be healthier and happier overall. And so that is something that's not talked about quite as much, but right now we're living in a time of a lot of fear, sadness, despair, loneliness, depression. Those are all very low energy states. And so overcoming that is something I think we should all be working on together.
Yeah. And I really appreciate what you're saying and how you're saying what you're saying, Lori-Ann. And so if someone's just tuning into this and just meeting you for the first time, and that you happen to be in the Bay Area or even beyond the Bay Area, because you can see people remotely now, who is your ideal client? I don't even know if that's a good question to ask you, but what are you looking for?
Well, I am looking to help people who are open to a new idea about their health, who are open. So first thing I would say, who are open, obviously to come to any practitioner, people need to have a problem. Sometimes there are people who are proactive, who I just want to be well, and I'm going to, seek as many healthcare or holistic professionals as possible to help me on my way. And lots of sports people or people in performance are in that category because they just want to be better and better. But in general, people have a problem. And so I am looking for somebody who is open to do whatever it takes to solve that problem and change their way of looking at health, or willing. So open and willing to look at their health a little differently and want to have a better life moving forward, not just go back to not having symptoms anymore. So I would say the person I don't want to work with is, just, adjust me for a couple of times and my pain will be gone and, then I'm fine. Well, that's really putting a Band-Aid on. That's like just going to the doctor and, here, put a Band-Aid on that. And it doesn't really move them forward. So I have a lot of people who've been to lots of practitioners and haven't really found that solution for themselves. And they have multiple problems. And of course, in medicine, they try and address each one of those symptoms independently, and they don't really look at what's connecting them all. So for example, I do have someone now who has digestive problems, lung problems, some blood pressure, and some heart-related issues. So it's a lot of organ system problems. And so they're looking at being treated differently with all different kinds of medications, or differently in different types of therapies. But when I did my evaluation with her, which I'd love to tell you about my evaluation process if we have time, but the very first vertebrae was misaligned. Now that's the atlas vertebrae, and the part of the brain stem, which controls all the organs, the vagus nerve exits from there, controls all the organs in your upper body. So if there's interference with transmission along that vagus nerve, well, all your organ systems are going to be affected. So what can we do then? Take that interference out, let that vagus nerve be healthy. And now all of those organ systems will start to get back online. We'll start to synchronize and get healthier. So that's an example of one of the ways in which I can look at someone differently. But so someone with multiple problems who hasn't had help otherwise, or has just been told to live with it, I can usually find a solution that has to do with the communication between the brain and the body. And then there's, giving the adjunctive and therapies to assist them in healing. But let's get to the cause. Let's get to the root sometimes, if we can do that. So those are the kinds of people who are open and are willing to move towards more health and vitality, and their goal is to not be not sick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I would love to share a little bit about one of the other things that I love. It is introducing new technology, because chiropractic itself was new technology way back when it was founded and, in great use back in the early 1900s. But before we were back and neck pain doctors. But a lot of new technology has come online that actually supports everything that we do. So my initial evaluation is to do some nerve system tests, which include a heart rate variability tests. So I don't know how much you all have talked about that, but heart rate variability is now a new measure, is in the literature a lot now, as to be a way to measure someone's overall health and ability to adapt and be resilient. So that's the balance in your autonomic system, the fight or flight versus rest and digest. So many people are overstressed, right? So they tend to have low heart rate variability. And when unchecked, that will actually produce a lot of burnout, so to speak, and you lose that ability to adapt to stresses in your life, and your system totally starts to shut down. So we look at that. We look at something called a surface electromyogram, which is looking at the nerves that go to all your muscles, joints, it's things like that, the motor system. But it also gives us how much energy you're expending just to be in this gravity environment we all live in. So we're looking at structure, but when we look at the function to just be here in gravity, if you expend a lot of energy doing that, there's not a lot of energy left for anything else. So Roger Sperry was a brain researcher in the 1980s, got a Nobel Prize. And he said, 90% of your brain output would be used for dealing with poor posture, and 10% for everything else. So what's everything else? Well, that's your heart, your kidneys, your lungs, your metabolism, your thinking, your creativity, that's everything else. So if you're going to expend all that energy just to stand up, which we can see a lot of people are losing that battle, right? They're all like bent over. Then there's not much left to do all this other stuff. So we're going to take a look at that and tell people where they are with that. And then another test, which is thermography, to look at their autonomic nervous system, their organ systems, and are they getting equal communication side to side, or are they getting messages that are not the same from that are incoherent, so to speak. And so the function is not 100% because they're getting two different messages. So those are some of the things that I do to assess people so we can really know what's going on with them and make recommendations. So I don't know, I could talk forever. I know we don't have.
Yeah, I was going to say we are just about at time.
I know, I'm so sorry.
I wanted
But,
just a lot to
yes.
talk about.
So much.
Yeah, and we will put the links for folks to get in touch with you to find out more. And Erica and I want to make a few closing comments. Or I wanted to ask Erica if she had any reaction before we close out.
Sure.
Well, it's so fun to hear you, Dr. Lori-Ann, and it's fun to work with you too. It's fun to play with these concepts, and I really enjoy what you have shared with me with the healing device. I hope that's okay to talk about on here.
Yes.
Healy.
Oh, we didn't get to talk about that.
We didn't get to talk
another time.
Another time, but that's an amazing thing that is like a take-home chiropractor in your pocket in a way.
Yes.
And it's helping people. And I appreciate the protocols that you've done upon me, my very own self, and the tests and then the thing that we didn't really get to talk about is the best protocol.
Right. So bioenergetic work. I also do a lot of bioenergetic work, removing interference in that emotional system. Yes.
Yeah. And I just appreciate the depth and breadth of all that you know and how you share about it. And I think the biggest thing for people to remember is, are you open to your healing process? And Dr. Lori-Ann is a great person for you to have on your team to take those steps on that path for your healing processes. And thank you so much. It's so great to hear you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. And I thank you for changing the conversation. That I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah, thanks. I always get something new from you. And I love this analogy of that interconnectedness, the universal intelligence or whatever you want to call it, because I really see that out there in the world today, that, with the news, and we can either have kind of fear and anxiety going out like electricity, or we can have more kind of peace and love and more positive things. So I think it's a very kind of powerful like world outlook, and this concept of blockages within each of us, and we want to be healthy, but if we can remove those blockages, then we can be healthy. So there's a lot of things that you say that kind of get me thinking in the right direction on health, but also how to interact with the world and how to kind of help cure the world, so to speak, although this is our little slice of healing here on the ripple effect. But anyway, if you have a reaction to that, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to close out here.
David, you're so cute. Like you're so open and available to what the heck this is. And I know it's such a different language than the language that you usually speak in, with videography and, visuals and politics and the things that you have expertise in. So it's like, at some point you're going to say, I guess I'm now into this kind of thing, but it's going to take a little time for for you to understand all these things. And I love that you're open to this conversation.
Great. Yeah. Well, let's we'll continue it. There's some great stuff there. Lori-Ann has a lot of great slides and things. I actually have to take a closer look at that book. I don't have a copy, so I'll have to take a look at it over at Erica sometime. But beautiful.
You could get your very own
Yes,
copy.
I have copies. I have copies myself here in the office. Glad to get
Okay,
you
great.
one.
Yeah, no, I'll have to buy one from you when we meet back in person. So, well, thanks everyone. We're going to sign off from the Ripple Effect, Erica and Lori-Ann. Thanks and welcome back to the Ripple Effect. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks for having us, David.
Thank you.
Bye.